Yeah. Good evening. Let's call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Bicentennial Hall, 25 Cedar Avenue, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of June 9th, 2025 is available by calling phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button that will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2025-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on January 7th, 2025, posted on the Borough website, the Bolton Board and Municipal Building, as remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting. Anyone sitting at the front table gives up their ability to make any public comment on the rest of the meeting. You can strike that last part. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Cole. Here. Pinistelli. Poe. Here. Cox. Here. Barbara.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
We have Administrator DeBerg, Kaminama, CFO Britton, Engineer Rivera, Chief McGovern, DPW Director Slingsby, and Department Director Carter.
Beautiful, thank you. We are starting off with, we have a presentation from the Fairhaven Library Board of Trustees. I see that some of them have joined us tonight. Thank you for being here. Yeah.
First of all, thanks for the time. We'll try to do this sufficient for everyone, but really wanted to update the council and residents on the progress that we've been making with the library since we've had some structural changes. I think they started back in like 2023. So I'm going to go through where we're at with the library itself and the formulation of the board of trustees, and then I hand it over to our board president, Allison McGee, who's going to talk about the sort of 2.0 version, which is the new formulation of the Friends of Fairhaven Library. So we've been with quite the journey, as everyone probably knows. You know, the library for a long time has been a group of people. We've had the opportunity to rethink that in the third quarter of 2023, and we hired the library director, Anita O'Brien, who has really been splitting her time as library director of both the Silver and here in Fairhaven. She has done a tremendous job, really maximizing all the resources that we have in Malton County. It is full host of things that we were capitalizing on, and with her role of experience, Anita has really done such a great job of getting our books up to date, keeping out all the old books, making sure all the ebook files are up to date. We've got, I'll go into all the different initiatives in a minute, but for the most part, it's been such a success to have her at the helm. You know, soon after Anita was hired, we hired 3 part-time librarians and then changed the hours of the library. And again, it's been really important to the feedback that we received from residents and really kind of take a look at the data around when people were coming to the library and how they were using it. So we hired 3 part-time librarians who have also done an amazing job, everything from social media to book clubs to knitting clubs to garden club to having a presence at the farmers market to all kinds of children's programs, all kinds of adult programs. Really, that team has just done a fantastic job. We have the stats and the response rate, or at least those checking out books, those checking out ebooks, and those coming into the library in general is up about 40%. So we've seen a big, you know, useful library that went from not knowing where it was at that conference before to now actually utilizing it, which is great progress. You know, we have well, a couple of members of the board here tonight, so Lizette, Molly, who's our vice president, and Lynn Lucarelli, who are all members of the board. What we really wanted to do is just highlight both the structure of the library, the board of trustees, which gets together once a month, has really been doing a great job of taking a look at the funds, organizing officers, so tracking all the metrics, and tracking the funds. We're talking about what we like to do, both short-term, long-term with the library. And so if you go sort of on page 2, again, I highlighted most of it, you can see at your convenience, this is just kind of a wrap up of where we are, and where we were in terms of programming, adult programming, utilizing different spaces, getting really creative and bringing in resources, it's been such a fantastic, endeavor. So one of the things that our library board, it has, and I think that has both done there. And it's when I saw that word enthusiasm and passion for the library and some of the renewed interest is really fun to do.
But it's just as well, library is significantly successful with the doctor, we've had so many more people come through the library. I was over there today and wanted to make sure I told you that there were over 80 people there today, that number. So we were really talking as a board of how we can move forward. And last year, about this time, we sent out a community survey to get some feedback on what residents wanted from the library. And we've been able to turn around and listen to that and provide some more programming, some kids programming, like Krista mentioned, the book clubs, and some our programs also. But one of the overarching themes that we saw come back to us was for renovating the space, which really needs to be updated and refreshed to match the enthusiasm that we're seeing for the library. So we've been talking with the board of how best to do that basically. The library has some funds that we've been sitting on for a long time. We're hoping to use some of that. We're a refresh. I know the borough has kind of offered their support in updating some of the building matter that needs to be refreshed. Painting the ceiling, also the floors. The one thing that we took in from Anita, who splits her time now between Hill Silver and us, we've got Hill Silver and some of the other surrounding towns have what they call Friends of the Library Group, which is a 501c3 that's able to take in donations from the community. And that was something that we weren't able to do prior. So the board formed a new group, the Friends of the Fairhaven Library, and we temporarily kind of assigned officers as we invited the community to join us. So we have a really nice group of residents working on the Friends of the Fairhaven Library Group. We've met a couple times, and our main goal is to raise funds going forward to kind of bridge the gap between what funds we have available to us and what we want to do with the library renovation project. So you'll see in the presentation that we gave you that we kind of found out about those quotes of what the library would look like. Just side note, we included some renderings of images of the library. Nothing is finalized. We haven't finalized any vendors really, we just sort of shop around. They haven't sent information and proposed as to how much money it will take, so we sort of know what our end goal is for the Friends of the Library. But our hope is to update the furniture and the flow of the library. Like we said, we have a lot more patrons coming in, especially after school hours. There's so many kids, and the flow doesn't really work for that many library fans. So we're hoping to kind of increase the flow, replace the furniture, update the space. It's, been well loved over the last however many years, and it's definitely time for it to be updated. So we included the cost that we've kind of heard around, and there's a wide range. And like I said, the library has some funds that we can use, and we're hoping to appeal to the community as well to sort of fund this project, to move the library forward. So we got quotes from design concept agencies that can help us with the furniture and the flow. There's also companies that specialize in moving the books and storing them during renovation projects, so we've also kind of gotten some feedback from them of how much that will cost. You know, it's a range, and it doesn't all have to be done at once, but it's probably about 70 to $150,000 is sort of where we were landing. So we're hoping to take that on, and the Friends of the Library group is very enthusiastic about different ways to raise money kind of from the community to help us with this project. They are avid readers and have a lot of book ideas for moving the fundraising forward. We have some members who work for various libraries, private libraries kind of around New Jersey also, so they bring their expertise to the fundraising and also to what we might want out of the library renovation. But it's exciting meetings, and have liaisons who work with the Friends of, and then also come back to the board so that those two groups are kind of always in communication. Basically, the Friends of, their sole purpose is to raise money. And then the board still makes decisions on how that money will be spent. So any money that is raised will come to us and we'll come back to you, you know, with specific plans, or options, kind of once we have them. So we just wanted to keep you informed and, you know, appreciate your support for kind of moving the project forward and helping with the structure itself as we try to update.
Yeah, and you know, the model that we're looking to copy, like Molly said, I'm sorry, Allison said, there are tremendous amount of other libraries that we can model after, but for anyone who's been in Little Silver, they did this exact same thing. So they started with Friends with Little Silver Library, they did all of their fundraising, you renovated the library, and they continue to raise funds primarily with that. So it's been great to have you and all the folks here really like doing the homework and writing all of this. So it was important to put it in color, Councilwoman, because we wanted to show everybody what the logos look like. So this is both the logo for the actual library, and then thanks to Lynn Morelli and her many talents, we have a different branded logo for Friends area. So you'll see a lot of.
I think this is amazing. I think it would be wonderful if we can get some more resources in the library as well. Do you think that this will allow for a lot more resources? Like, how does that, are you looking at doing digital? Like, how would that look?
In terms of the Friends that they're taking in and doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still in the beginning stages of it, but we're trying to move along as fast as possible because we would like to start the project sooner rather than later. But as of right now, our thought would be to appeal to the community, basically, through a letter like the Borough was, and we do have a digital website that we haven't published yet,
Mhm.
but we'll be able to take in donations through the website. So Donna is very instrumental in setting it up, so I'm looking to her to kind of.
So as far as resources go, and having the nonprofit status opens us up to, I mean, really, it's other grants available right now. I think, you know, right now, I think times around today, that's very uncertain. I think we have, this renovation is kind of the biggest project. Once that is, completed, then whatever money is raised by the Friends can go to, you know, basically, just the library and whatever, projects or programming is necessary.
That's great. And would this close the library at all for any amount? Like, how much time do you think it would be closed for?
We definitely would close the library for a period of time. They haven't given us that in terms of a time frame. I think when we talked about it as a board, we loosely thought that maybe it would be like that summer when kind of, you know, there's a little bit of a lull, especially with the schools not being open. But that's something we can certainly move around, and we kind of need to see how much we take in.
Yeah.
They're asking the community and then work forward from there.
Do you receive community appeal funds?
We do, yeah, it's been.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique structure. We have, it's a hybrid, right? We have, it's private and it's public. Like the municipality owns the building and pays for the staff, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. But it's also raise it, we also have funds that are raised to the community appeal. I mean, so it's a very constructive.
They also receive money from,
Right, so it's a little bit of a hybrid, most towns are one.
There's things that are bringing up a moment.
Oh,
So, yes, it's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
The only funds that we handle are payroll. So anything that they get from the community appeal from our county goes directly towards that. We do pay their Comcast bill once a month, but we get reimbursed by the county at the end of the year. So their financials, other than payroll, are totally separate from her.
Have you come up with any fundraising ideas?
Oh, there's so many.
Okay.
So that's sort of what our next step is, and besides a letter, sort of, what our goal is, we have everything, to deep parties, to kids book exchanges, to, yeah, I mean, we really, that's where we sometimes get lost in the weeds, so we're hoping to figure out kind of how exactly how we want to move forward, pick up on the main things.
Great, thank you.
I would just add to, there's a QR code on this handout, and if you scan the QR code, it'll bring you to our website, which you can't find publicly yet, and we publish it, but it's live, so you could go there and when listening at home, you can follow the QR code and read more about what we're doing, and we welcome more people to get involved, and like, we're the trustees, and there's a friend group. But this is like a community effort where, we need people to join these committees and come up with ideas, and if you have special expertise from design to architecture to, wisdom about what libraries should look like, we welcome everyone to a great project to get involved in. So I would encourage our community to look at the website and email the address there and join us. There's jobs big and small, something for everyone.
So I remember there was a point we were getting close to ordering a new front desk. I think that's another name, but it's the front desk. And we had a lot of money. So how much money do you have set aside that would be contributed to this entire renovation, right?
About $50,000 that can contribute to the project. It's really just been sitting there for many years, so it's really to use, that would be our as well.
Okay, so and when I look at these pictures here, that's a pretty widespread there, 50,000 to 100,000. Is that the $50,000 design, or is that $100,000?
So we also reviewed that and kind of like going through the itemized plans for renovation, we started to realize that the chairs were really extraordinarily high, and we started talking to the company like, oh, well, can we adjust some of the chairs that are bringing the cost down and things like that. So that's why there's such a wide range, because we haven't really seen what we can do when we get into the nitty-gritty of the details. I think we can probably make it happen for, with moving the books, maybe closer to 100,000, because that price get off them. We have to fine tune what we want plans to be.
Are we able to get quotes from like UFI, or do we have to get?
well, yes, we can get it, we were paying for it,
We'd have to pay for a quote though?
No, not.
BFI would do a design
Yeah.
quote they did for that, and their state contract.
That's not through us. Like any work at the library would be through the library.
But we could still connect them so that they could get a quote, right? And get an idea of. Because I think what we're talking about here is, well, I guess those additional funds would come from the Friends of the Library as well. That's what we're talking about, right?
So
They're not making a request of funds from us, are they?
No.
So they're getting the funds from the Friends of the Library, so it's now, I guess it's just a matter of them determining. Is it them determining the design? Do we choose design? This is a weird.
Yes, you guys want the real estate, that's why it's tricky.
So I think. We want them to make a recommendation to us, which is sort of what's happening here. But it sounds like they have to have some more details on what that would look like and what the cost is.
Yeah.
Also, this estimated book handling cost.
It's, yes, it's,
I'm looking at you, Rick, I feel like, you know, you can find a way to. There's no other way to like volunteers, everyone makes one
We did.
box of books
We
home.
talked about that. So this is just found out that there are companies that specialize in taking the books off, organizing them, storing them, and then placing them and put around the shelves. But we thought the same thing, and we were like, we can get high school volunteers and we can get, you know, residents to come and help, so. Again, we're kind of in the early stages of this, but that, it's just sort of informational purposes, that is on the table, whether we do it ourselves or take the quote like that.
And then what's a healthy cash reserve for you? Because if you have $50,000, I assume you don't wanna spend $50,000. You wanna have, like, how fast do you regenerate?
Yeah, so I believe we have more than $50,000, for 50,000 is what we said we would put towards the project, it would be some money for us. And again, it hasn't been used in a lot of years.
I think 70 total.
Yeah, I think it was, yes.
70.
Like 7 years.
I just wanna also say, I think I've said it before, but before you haven't been in the room, probably, I've said it. This is an example, I mean, not that the library is bad, but you guys have totally revitalized the energy of that entire, facility. And, you know, it echoes into social media, it echoes into the community. So if you get a chance to give yourself a pat on the back, you deserve it. It's pretty awesome what you've done there. So I support this. I know there's been discussions about putting the library in other places. We'll sit here, we'll talk about it for 4 years, and nothing will happen. My opinion is to move forward and, you know, do what we can with the.
measured, but it's square footage is actually smaller.
But speaking of that, I was wondering if, instead of closing it, had there been consideration of maybe moving it like temporarily, or bringing in like a curated collection to maybe this space, just to have you guys at least be present while there's under construction? Yeah, but just to kind of keep it going. The other thing, I was just throwing this out there, just in your thinking, but it would be great to have some kind of Fairhaven presence there, like the history of Fairhaven, if that is something that was considered, but.
We
I
can
would-
talk about that
Okay.
as well.
If when you close, if you need, and this doesn't work out, Betsy has offered her living room. She's so. She's so good. She's so good.
I do want to say when Donna Summers retired, maybe that was 18 months ago that she retired. There was a conversation about closing the library completely. So I really appreciate that you guys have brought in a tremendous amount of energy. And we went from almost having no library to now looking at a brand new library. So thank you.
I wanted to share the same thing, because, some members of the governing body weren't here for that moment in time, but the majority of us were here. And I remember that, looking at each other like, oh, way, we need to have robust. We've got something to work for here, meager, maybe, but still great
Yeah.
hopes. And, thank you, thanks. I know there's other people involved, and it's terrific and my compliments are, there's not too many person in speak part, helping figure out what to do there. I might be forgetting to credit someone, I'm sorry, but I really just want to thank you, because the library is, like I said, a social center for our community. We need one, and our community deserves it, so thank you. I have one question having to do with, it's a little mechanical or structural, the board. So I understand the role of not-for-profit, and I applaud you, that's the right thing to do, a public not-for-profit partnership. It's really one of the priorities of all, really solid class and G's, especially in the amenities. The question we have is about our board, which is, we have a public library, a private not-for-profit, and our board has some oversight responsibilities. We call them a board, I don't know the answer to this question. Is it a board of directors of a city bylaws of the elected, I think they're appointed, correct? Are they bylaws, or do they function as like a committee, a subset of government? The same way some of our other.
So the board itself
We can come back.
Yeah, it's Board of Advisory in nature, because obviously, you know, they do handle as far as, some of the structure, and, you know, what programming is at the library, there are some parts of the library that's operate autonomously, because it is funded through the county.
Right.
So it's a bit of a hybrid, however, there are portions of it, because there's a section of that is funded by the borough, or staff, they wouldn't be able to render a decision on it, kind of go through everything as well, so. Because there's multiple funding sources there, and there's now some, they answer to a few different managers on this one, depending on what it is, would depend on what that board record decision on. Staffing, that's something that we pay for that would buy your programming, library report, you know, in conjunction with the county, like the cycle programming that they want to have in that platform. And that
So
they can take on their own.
would it be accurate to say the appointed advisory body would work with the not-for-profit, not-for-profit arm of that body would then together make recommendations to the governing body?
Yeah, I would say that's an accurate,
Thank you.
depiction of it.
Just many.
I think though, ultimately, it's the Board of Trustees that's making the recommendation.
Correct, but they
The
have
other
that.
part is a fundraising arm,
Well, the fundraising part handles the fundraising portion of it,
correct,
so they control that, that's separate from the board of trustees.
but the advice we're getting is from the Board of Trustees.
Correct, yes.
I drew it more than. You know.
Phenomenal work. On BFI and a lot of these furniture companies, they'll actually work through the programming with you. So when you bring the data, you know, how many people, right, age groups, timelines, they'll actually take all of that programming, provide recommendations based on what they've seen elsewhere, and then also help inform the design. So whether it's BFI or another, but it's super helpful, and they do it as part of the initial process. You don't have to commit funds to do that. So
Kristen said you could use through whenever you want, and he's got plenty of time.
more than happy to jump in and help, guys. Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, I can, I'll loop in Robin with you, and then you can go on.
We good? Thank you so much. Awesome job. Engineer Rich Gardella has some grant activities.
Evening. So that time of year where we have two grants kind of running concurrently that we're working on internally, so. The purpose of tonight's meeting is really just a workshop. And feedback and direction. Because we need to prepare these grants that have been submitted. By the deadlines, which are. By-ish this summer, which we'll get around. So the first one we have on the agenda is the NADOT. Every year, we put out an invite for solicitation. It's for our local aid program, municipal aid. It's a typical road resurfacing that we submit every year. What I like to do is basically kind of pick two roads that would fit this type of project. As you know, last year they funded Cambridge. The year before they funded Foreman. And so those types of streets, and then also keeping with the design standards that we've adopted, which is more like a complete streets type of initiative. So this year, I had made a recommendation to our administrator, and I know we talked about it at our engineering DPW liaison meeting. We looked at Linden Drive, which would be from Fairhaven Road to about south of Woodland. We just finished up some improvements last summer in that vicinity, and so that would tie that together. And the other street would be Poplar Avenue, which would be from Hants to Chestnut. Now, although similar in condition, they are different types of roads. One road doesn't have sidewalks, so it would basically be replacing curb, milling, paving, and That's the bulk of the project, that's limited. That cost is approximately $485,000 based on my engineer's estimate. The other road, which is Poplar, which obviously serves a different purpose because it is a block from the school. It does have sidewalks. The addition of those sidewalks and the curbing and the aprons are somewhat aged. It's been a while, I believe, since the borough did improvements there. So you're looking at about $450,000. The reason it's a little less is it's not as long of a run, because from Chestnut to Hants, where Linden is a pretty good stretch from Fairhaven Road all the way to the River Oak section, basically the south. The grant is due July 1st. So normally we could make a selection tonight on the road. I would then get to work this week, everything is submitted online, very simple process. Put everything through the NJ DOT portal, and then at the next meeting, we would get a resolution that Allison would prepare for that street, and the whole package gets submitted by the first. And then typically they announce the project, usually around November. Just to give you a cost comparison for it, we got 315,000. They've been very good with Fairhaven. We've ranked high in monies received throughout Monmouth County. So you kind of want to stay within that $500,000 ballpark figure with the hopes of getting, you know, in excess of 50%. And then obviously everything gets designed in-house. We bid it, we design it, we oversee all the construction, so there's a big savings there. No.
I have a question for the committee, or Rich, whoever listening is. Did the engineering committee talk about the ATP and what's prioritized in there? And the reason I'm asking is because I personally think that intersection at Hants and the Knollwood School driveway, which I know is not a length of roadway, but it's perhaps more complex because we've got a partner to bring on board and all the other, but it is such an important pedestrian vehicular turnstile, that location. Was it discussed at all, or perhaps it's on the horizon?
It's been discussed in the past. Obviously, I had designed it and even wanted to submit for a change part of the Third Street, but they felt it was outside the project limits. These types of projects are primarily resurfacing. That's what DOT likes to fund for this type of locally owned. They want to mill the road and give you a brand new paved surface. Although, yes, we want to incorporate ADA improvements and pedestrian circulation and all that, but you also need to look at the scope. Where that intersection isn't going to develop $500,000 worth of improvements.
No.
And since we're 83rd, Hants was done 19 years ago. It seemed like a long time ago, but it's a newer street for Fairhaven. It's not in our top 10, to get redone at this point in time. So that's why Linden we talked about last year. We landed in Cambridge, we chose Cambridge. And then Poplar is kind of in that neighborhood, has kind of been on the radar.
Is there, any chance of either of these two having, water main upgrades or gas? We got all those streets paid for by the utilities. Is that coming down the pipe at all?
As far as we know, New Jersey Natural Gas has completed all of their major infrastructure improvements, main upgrades, and then obviously the water company just completed a number of those. Nick and I are in constant contact with them. These two streets are not, they did do obviously the Hillcrest area, the water company, they did fix that intersection for us. We pushed them a little bit to fix the asphalt and the paving and kind of stretch a little bit there. But no, they
Do you have a recommendation between these two? And if you did, why would you be making the recommendation?
I would recommend Poplar, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's in close proximity to the school. So they do look at that as part of the ranking. And number two, it's one of the streets where we have existing sidewalk that needs repair, and this is a great opportunity to get that work done. You know, it costs just to do sidewalks for that street. $75,000. Plus the ADA, you know, the intersections and crosswalks. So whenever you have an opportunity to get some of that infrastructure replaced. Rather than just a mill and pave, mill and pave is not much of a design, that's something you can even go get quotes on, there's co-ops out there to do that. Anytime you can do a full road reconstruction. Very similar to what we just did on Main, and you see the end product.
And it being close to the school, is that one qualified for another grant from a different organization?
It wouldn't, not to say there aren't other grants out there for that type of work, but this type of DOT local aid, it fits that category very well.
And there, if I can get a couple of things too, when we discussed an engineering meeting as well with the committee members. One of the things which I also looked at is another metric determining road. Obviously, you know, the place we did receive from residents that live in the area, and going back on, you know, a year ago, and here, you know, I'm getting emails from residents requesting what are roads going to be repaid, decided off fixed. Poplar was one that came up in multiple emails from multiple residents. For a lot of reasons, one, residents live there, but also a lot of residents, kids walk to school, and that was a concern. That one did come up quite a bit, so that's one of the reasons why, which I did put Poplar Avenue to the top of the list as far as our own recommendations is covered by.
It's a proper lower, like, is it a lower water people, and then, like, I vaguely remember Poplar having a lot of water during storms.
I don't know if water table really has anything to do with whether or not the drainage, street is
Got it.
functional, but, we are aware of Linden and Kent. Historically, has had some issues, but we've done a good job of maintaining that.
And when they do this, is it by the name of the street, like, we couldn't extend that? You know, you're at 450, we couldn't extend it another 50K on Chestnut,
We actually Chestnut,
Chestnut the second, you know what I mean?
water
Like,
company did Chestnut, and we were able to get them to repay.
so we're good, all right.
And
And then there's the small, what about Cypress Point?
I did think about Cypress, they typically don't like to fund
A separate,
a separate street, I think keeping it popular would be our best,
okay,
route.
Get more questions?
well,
So it's a whole road for.
New curb, for sidewalk, new driveway, fence, middle page, curb to curb. And that's not to say that you can. I could do a little thing up at the intersection sites, you know. And tie it in appropriately. Just like we, and same thing at Hants. We did the 2 ramps on Hants through micro projects in Jackson, so this would tie this right in.
If we did Linden, would we add something else?
Linden, we would not, it would be new curb and just mill and pave.
And I think we were sort of hitting at this, it looks like it's about a 400K block roughly in surface.
How much is that?
400K.
No, it would be for the one project, the Linden it would be just shy of 500, so like 485.
But it was 450, looks like it's one block.
Depending on what, yeah, I mean, it's a long block. Yeah.
And then that's 10 years to resurface.
You can tell me, no, it lasts longer.
It's mill and pave, not resurface, right?
Poplar was about 13 to 1400 linear feet, and Linden is about 2350. Which would be it.
And then is there there must be a master of the road maintenance plan, and this is so.
So we have a spreadsheet that we work off of, and we obviously completed several of those last year. We did 17 streets last summer, through the borough and also one of the utility companies. And then in the last 20 years, we picked away at quite a few. And both Nick and I maintain a spreadsheet. We have some mapping. We are getting some software that will be able to do pavement evaluation and, you know, we actually just signed a contract.
You did it, yeah.
So that's gonna be a new tool that we're gonna be able to utilize.
So we're gonna do it in top of our, about with this, your spreadsheet, what was,
They are towards the top of the list, yes, and once again, they need to also be at the top of the list that NJDOT would favor, you know, that type of shit.
thank you.
When would this work be done if it gets awarded in November?
So DOT will do an announcement typically in November. And then you have 24 months to award a contract. So we have 24 months to bid and award. So for example, Foreman was in 20 fiscal year 2024. We have until October to get that one bid. That's why you might have seen the survey that was out there. And you have the bond ordinance on tonight. So that the timing is such where these road jobs kind of just run parallel and sync, you know, one after another. Based on fiscal year.
But we'd be responsible for the funds for this in fiscal year 26 or 27?
I'm sorry, say that?
We'd be responsible for the remaining balance. Yeah. When?
Typically, it's prior to bid, we have to authorize the funds.
So like was the form that we just did the ordinance.
Yeah.
Some of that, it listed out what was a DOT grant and then the rest is our responsibility. That's why we made the intentions to authorize additional funds.
I think you're asking, which budget did those
Yes.
additional funds be coming out,
Yes.
correct? So obviously, the word notice doesn't come out until November. This would most likely be a 2026 expense. It would not be 2025.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
Because we're gonna probably bond.
Yes, it's a capital expense. So when it would actually hit, it depends on how you handle the money. Right now, the majority of our current funding is not
Yes.
fully funded, right? That's our plan by the end of the year. To fully fund our current capital
Mhm.
expenditures. So once we do that, anything after that, it will also be unfunded until the determination to fully fund it with the bond. So then the only thing that falls on the borough at that point is the interest payment. Until we fully fund it, and then there'll be a loan payment and an interest payment.
And
Okay.
our goal is full funding, obviously, which is a magician. So that's what we want. This would also be fourth in the queue. We still have Fairden Road, Foreman, Cambridge, and then would be this.
So I don't think that would be part of the conversation.
Those two we asked about,
This is all about sequence everything.
Anyone else have any questions on this specifically? Does anyone wanna, do we need a motion, Allison, on which one to move forward with, or just?
I think if we're in some kind of direction, so just to.
Well, it seems pretty obvious that us.
Are you making a motion? Papa?
Well, it's and I didn't know we were gonna make a motion, but I can just personally say, I think when we can make financial improvements.
Yeah.
We very much should prioritize those, so Papa seems like. Would have the greatest impact and beneficial impact in this town as a whole.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You got your answer there, right?
All right, moving on, next grant, update on the list, union block grant. So as you know, we just finished the project, you did an ADA bathroom, and the next bathroom will be a compliant, and you redid the entrance ramp on the side of the building. So the next phase of funding is upon us. So once again, we wanted to look at our facility. Because in Fairhaven, we only qualify for the improvement.
Cool.
So even before all the problems for tonight, and talk about we should redo the bathrooms. The bathrooms are somewhat original, the building was built 1963.
1963, yeah, and that is right, currently the ADA upgrades, the only building in the borough that actually eligible for it. So we got brand new community center, brand new DPW, bicentennial hall, which is done, Borough Hall, last building itself. And because that's a shared use building between the library here, between the library and Borough Hall, and it's only those two bathrooms, it's we're speaking with community block development, that's a favorable project to apply for.
So we had our, as part of the grant process, we had an initial meeting with them. We provided them the proposed project, they confirmed that it was eligible. As part of the ADA improvements in bathrooms, we would also like to do some exterior modifications to the sidewalk and the ADA programs, and take a look at the parking space out there, kind of tie it all together, because the funding is available, which is up to $200,000. So there might be an opportunity to kind of capture some of that as part of this upgrade. You already have an operational elevator to get to the main level of the basement. So we really just tying in the bathrooms, obviously redoing all the plumbing part of it, and you know, doing those much needed upgrades. And to Chris's point, not only does it serve borough staff and borough business, also the library, also recreation, and then have the programs, the camps, and things of that nature, and everything else that goes with it. So the funding is up to 200,000. It is fund money. It is obviously competitive, but knowing that we just finished this project, we have a great relationship with them. We already had our meeting, and the project meets the funding criteria. So
Yeah, and we really wouldn't qualify for CDBG money in any other way, so.
the only thing I
That's a smart idea.
Yeah, just one other thing too, they asked us for funding for the last 10 years, and we got a spreadsheet. We've only applied for the community block development grant twice, and we've only received funding for this building, so we're not heavily funded this town problem. Also, again, this is a favorable edge.
Rich,
So,
go
I
ahead.
have some questions.
Just two quick questions.
Yeah.
One, and we can stay high level. Is there any additional ADA tie-in with the improvements on Fairhaven Road to Borough Hall? Right, because I know there's some work being done at the entryway and there, obviously you have Fairhaven hardware. But is there any,
yes. And it's at an entrance of the Fairhaven Road project, you know, behind the Harper store, because that sidewalk maintenance is blocked, so that will be taken care of this summer. The parking lot in itself, this project is really just gonna be isolated to some
Okay.
ADA tweaks.
Yep.
Low level modifications that we can get paid for as part of it.
Awesome. And then just a learning moment, do the concession stands apply? Would they be eligible for next year? The bathrooms at the concession stand? Not saying that they need it, I'm 100% behind Borough Hall in this entire plan, but just for a learning moment,
Maybe not to get there.
Cool.
Yeah.
next year.
Sure. Mine for the.
So I wanted.
We've been to with you guys, awarded bid, I put all contracts 2 weeks ago, we're in the process of setting up a pre-construction meeting and getting things going.
Okay, so my real question is, this roof be done long before?
Oh, the roof should start in the coming weeks, yeah.
So if you put together, an application for the grant of work that costs $100,000, I have no idea what it's. And they come back and they say, or we awarded you $50,000. Are we on the hook now for an additional $50,000 to do this project?
I think our intention is, the funding is up to 200, so we're gonna develop a project that's roughly 200, submit that. As with any grant, if they come back with a lesser award, we have a few options. We can not move forward with the project at all. We could modify and scale the project back, or we could offset and seed funded from.
But we're not, in any way, yeah, we don't have to spend out of our own money, we don't want to after the award, that's what I'm saying. If we wanna scale back, we can, if we wanna not take the grant, we can.
I can say historically. Doing CDBG applications, they typically look to get what you want done, just like here.
Hold on.
You're within $5,000.
Yeah, the funding we had for this project was 174, a little over 174,000, and we came in roughly under the.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not talking about 5,000, you know. Well, for a bigger
And
scale.
there's no mandatory match as well.
Okay.
Right.
Everyone good on that one?
Yeah.
Good?
I struggling. There's just so much work going on, and the jazz, probably the first time we asked for update, where all roads, all walk parks. Well,
I agree, but I think there's one more grant, we're talking about, or not?
it's hard to.
There's one more grant he's talking about, and then I think, Kristen, let's get the
Fair.
entire one. Is that correct that you have one more or not?
We have to hold a public hearing for CDBG, which is, would be at our,
Yeah.
their meeting.
So
Okay,
the community development block grant that just moved July, I think that's a requirement. We need to advertise a full public. So at that point in time, we'll have some additional information to provide to those local.
I'm assuming you're all right with having that public hearing, correct?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's all.
The next grant that we're looking at is the Monmouth County, municipal open space. It's, their annual open space grant that they provide, an opportunity to apply for. This year, well, maybe last year, this is, one of the early years where they increased the funding. Typically, it was, you do a $500,000 project, we give you a $250,000 match. And now increase that to $1 million. And as you know, the intent was to go for the improvements to the 21 Fairhaven Road parcel that the borough had acquired, and then prepare a grant package for submission for that. We had 2 open houses for that property to get public feedback, which all of you were somewhat involved with, and several of our staff. We are compiling all that as we speak to kind of generate the data that came out of that. And as with any grant, I need to prepare a concept plan. And it is a concept plan. It's a concept plan, so I can develop an engineer's estimate. It could be shoreline protection, etc. It could be beach access. It could be passive in nature. We need to prepare something. As with the development block grant, we need to do a public hearing as part of this process. Monmouth County Open Space basically follows the Green Acres grant process. Very similar, but it's a model after that when we first started. So once again, we need to but I will develop an estimate. And our intention is to submit to the full $1 million with a $500,000 match. First, if you want to get anything.
Yeah, you summed it up, and again, it's a 9-page application, it's narrow goals, so it's not a submission of actual architectural drawings. Again, they're looking for a concept plan, to get an idea of what we're doing, which a lot of that basis can come from the open houses that we already had, the open houses are a requirement To apply for this, which we've already checked the box on the open houses that we've had recently. There's a public hearing that is required, which we would have to have done on June 23rd, we have by July 10th. And I think that's pretty much all.
Is it 500K? 500K, or is it a million?
It's a million.
No, so this is background, so previous grants were 250, 500 total with 250 max, so, for example, the two projects now that are funded from this grant are the Range Avenue Pocket Park, which is in the process of being done. And then that'll move to the back road boat grant that's funded by, or it was still referred to as the Monmouth County Open Space Grant, now it's referred to as the Monmouth County Open Park Improvement Grant Program. This year, because that money is funded through the county open space tax, because they've had an increase in county open space tax, they have raised that award. Now they will give you, if you put 500,000 up, they'll go up to a 500,000 next. So 500 plus 500.
Right. We spend 400, they give us 400. We spend 450, they give us 450. Okay. Can I add just a couple more data points, right? So back on March 24th, right, the 21 Favorable Advisory Committee provided that report, right, that outlined a plan and sequence of events. Part of that included, and we had the blessing from the governing body back in March of moving forward with the workshop and having the resolution. In addition to the two open houses, we also did a more intimate open house with the residents surrounding 21 Fairhaven Road. And then we have solicited feedback from all the different committees, commissions, and boards. So the goal was to, from inception, given the significance of what the site is, to solicit as much feedback as early as possible so that the concept plan is an informed concept plan. Doesn't mean it's definitive, right? You go concept and design and construction. And the other data points that come up was now that the estoppel period has ended today, one of the next steps pending funding is getting both an environmental engineer that helps with landscape planning as well as a planner who does the parking and traffic analysis. So this wasn't, Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but the amount of work on the front end has been not exhaustive, but considerable in material, given the thought and the information that we wanted to give you as you go to provide a concept plan. So real recap, right? We're following the plan that we presented and approved back in March. And we're going to use all of the feedback centralized from all these different groups and open houses to position Rich to submit the concept.
So this is a yearly application, so we put an application this year, we put in another application for either this or something else the following year, correct?
That's correct.
And if it was this, I'm just spitballing here, if it was this or community center, would you, from a timeline standpoint, would you say that we should do this one first and then wait until we finish facilities before we address community center?
I think the timing is such this fits the timeline, because by the end of this week, I should have bid specifications for the demo and the rest, and the what do we call them, the site stabilization at that location. And then this, the timing is such where this would follow right in.
And I guess it's unfair of me to just assume those are the two. Are there any other ones that you've considered that?
May I introduce a thought that supports where you're going, not just sort of choosing, but it's a Monmouth open space thing, they look favorably, and I refreshed, I did some more research before I bring this up, but they take the favorable review of applications that, for municipalities that take a long view. And we know, our access to, public access to the water, obviously it's a full master plan. And we can take advice at it over years. To my knowledge, we haven't put in an application that acknowledges, this is sort of an initial phase. But they favorably on applications that acknowledge this is an initial phase, we obviously have a long way to go, I find it important. We're looking to complete, not looking at sort of goals and multi-phase search application. It doesn't block us into getting things. It doesn't necessarily guarantee any fun, but the language is. Project phase is proposed with the initial project proposal, so that subsequent applications will touch back to this, so. And I guess I wanted to raise it now because. We have, we have a mile and a half of shoreline. We have 5, 6, you could say, when talk about separately. That we have multiple points of potential public access to what. And, obviously, Long County Open Space folks know that, they've been having to fund us equivalently. But this might be a really good opportunity for us to sort of take the, long you would state it that way, because. We're gonna be 3 years down the road and look back and say, we still haven't touched hands and we still haven't completed the other side of the creek, or I'm making it up at this point, I'm just saying, we have some work to do in these locations, so. It may strengthen our application, so I wanted to include thought in this discussion for a workshop and council deliberations.
Was there a third or fourth that was on your mind, or was Albertina Meadows and the community center the top one?
Typically, we, just like, team projects, we look at two positive. So yeah, various center fields in one of them.
We've also,
And
and
there's. And there's. Tons of.
Yeah.
Your question. There's that.
short answer is yes, but just also with the amount of work involved, right? That's why we received approval from the GB back in March, right? To highlight this, because we've been working on it for 4 months.
Well, and also you have to come up with to get this grant, you would have to really have a plan. And at this point, to have a plan on any of the other projects would be pretty hard, I would think, right?
We're finishing compiling all the feedback and then providing the key themes back to Rich to then. I can give you some. Please don't quote it because we're still compiling, but some of them, passive, reading, picnic tables, stormwater and cutting off the street so that you can only walk down the hill. There were a couple folks that love the amphitheater of being able to kind of have places to sit. Combination of living shoreline, but also having, it's not a bulkhead, I'm gonna call it a seat, so that it stops erosion, like Victory Park in Rumson. They have like the wall before the beach. And then another one that came up quite often was connectivity between 21 Fairhaven Road and Normandy. And if Yacht Works would be willing to work with us on connecting those two pieces of open space. So those are some of like the central themes. And again, all of it will be available to the GB, both the raw data and then the synthesized data that's sent. And we've also created a SharePoint site that is keeping track of every single document related to 21 Fairhaven Road. So if any GB member wants to access that, you already have access, whether you realize or not. But if you want the link, just ask for it and you can access whatever you want to do.
Yeah, that doesn't play ball as well.
What's that? Same with every GB. Like,
But the discussion with you guys, it already is right there. It's a question of whether I was shoreline is, shoreline is good, and the same thing applies at the 21. We still have to do some analysis. Somebody's gonna have to take us through the puts and takes on how positive that's gonna be and what costs more and exactly what is the best decision for Fairhaven. But if we know that we're going to ultimately address all of these, which I believe that is the purpose of that goal in the master plan, it's a good idea to put our foot forward and understand that that's ongoing. It doesn't eliminate other projects, obviously. You weren't proposing community center this.
I think I was asking the question. I thought the answer was this first, but I also don't want to just presume that that's the answer without voicing it.
Sure.
Based on what you said, I just had a thought, is the living shoreline, would that be money be accessible as part of this grant? To use to put towards something like that? And if it was, could we squeeze out some extra linear feet for the park down the street?
Typically, it would just be on this parcel.
Got it.
Water frontage at 21. So any type of, whatever shoreline protection you decide, or accommodation for.
Right,
But we'll get some analysis from a professional, right, about us too.
Environmental
What is,
engineer.
yeah, what is it us? What, somebody's gonna walk us through an analysis on, yeah.
I'm assuming, Rick, I mean, I'm assuming they'll work with you, right? You'll be the lead engineer, putting the bid specs together, right? All about like we've done. Yeah, and just like any previous project, you know, whether it's the traffic and parking analysis planner, the environmental engineer, whomever, right? All that data will be synthesized and ultimately form, right, the plan, just like we've done previously.
And I'm saying, because everything comes down to, we had, some, we're ready for, you know, 500,000 max. But if, you know, Long County just makes things back, only awards us 200, 200 max, obviously, that affects what we can bring for that.
Yeah, 100%. But we have 750, 780.
Roughly,
And did we get it, just real quick, did you put it together or did Nigerian put it together a cost estimate yet for the site state? We know the asbestos was like 95, but did we get any other costs? Just because the 750 minus site stabilization equals what's left over and we can match that, right? So if 7050 minus site stabilization is 400, we're gonna apply for an $800,000 grant, right? That's at least what the governing body, yeah.
The county's gonna be motivated, I would hope.
734.
They helped us to acquire this piece of.
They've invested $750,000 into it so far already.
They've got 252 grants in back. They're supporting our goal because it's their goal. To
Yeah, 100%. Public access to the water, yeah.
How do we fund our? Is it a ban?
So currently it's part of our unfunded.
Sorry, what was your question, Brian?
How we fund it, so.
How will we fund this?
So unfunded means that is not an issue.
Correct.
Brian, this would be a good opportunity to, bring up open space back.
On the agenda.
Go to the borough, that's it.
Well, I think Brian was asking what I was thinking, just because there is funds in the ordinance, does that mean that we want to spend, not actually every. Right, not we, you, right, want to spend up to every penny that's there, because it's not funded. And that's part of what we're gonna be looking at soon, determine, once facilities are done, we're gonna be taking a hard look at our capital. See what we wanna fund, see what we want to cancel or keep or whatever. So,
My point is that our portion, we don't have the cash. That's what I suspected, it's not like we don't, so we'll need more data, they like the project.
well, it's not additional debt, it's already included in our
Correct.
current debt. So when we talk about there's unfunded and funded, but it's all part of our capital plan. No, yeah, so there's.
We just did something
We have
for-
for 20.
Yes.
Right? So the ordinance authorizes funds, that doesn't mean that they're funded. Like we don't have a bond element up. Right now, the majority of our debt is in the 1-year ban. Right, so we borrow money for a year, we got the 3 years, only have to pay interest. For the next year, we will have to make a payment, at least a portion of it. So that's why we have to determine what do we want to fully fund, what do we want to go out and get a bond for. So there is money set aside and we do have debt for it, it's not permanent debt. So we wouldn't be authorizing new funds. The funds have already been authorized in the past.
They've been authorized, but if debt has not been issued, forget about the ban or bond.
The permanent debt has not been issued,
Permanent debt has not been issued, but the ban has been issued.
yes.
Okay. So
And
it's not.
It's
No,
not,
it's
and
not new debt.
correct, and when we did the debt service and compared the impact to the average assessed home, we took into account all of,
Ban.
yes, and then we're able to project based on when MCIA runs out and we have to convert it and start making payments, that we're able to see it. So outside, there's no other bond ordinance on the docket, right, to take on additional debt. Well, that's the one that's coming in tonight. We didn't just do it with Foreman, right? We're gonna do it tonight. Correct. So besides that, and then after the estoppel period ends for that, then that's added
Yeah.
to the overall number.
Good. Um, the purchase of 21 Fairhaven Road, the ban is upset, right? That's-
It is part of our outstanding ban, yes.
Is there an extra 500,000 for this? It's already outstanding, just waiting to be authorized for this project?
I'm not sure, I'm
So
sorry.
if we did this grant and we had a total of $500,000, are you telling me that ban has already been issued?
Yes, so the ordinance for 21 Fairhaven, which currently has an available balance of about $730,000, is part of our current ban.
Got it. So we can apply that remaining balance to this match.
You can, yes, if that's what you choose to do.
All right, so there's no, to.
Right.
We're not
There's no-
Right.
We're not looking to authorize any new funds for this.
We just changed, didn't we just change the verbiage so it fit?
It's good.
Yeah.
But so that's 730,000. Whatever the site stabilization comes back will be subtracted to the 730K. Whatever's left over is what is going to be matchable for the grant, max matchable. We haven't even done the concept plan yet. We don't know what the cost is. We'll hopefully have that within the next several weeks. You'll need the cost estimate, right, as part of submitting it. But 730 minus site stabilization equals less left over.
Where, asbestos remediation.
Site stabilization.
That's part of this.
Correct.
That was in the original.
Yes.
That's.
I didn't know.
So if, let's say, to Drew's point, if the stabilization takes, all but 250,000, so let's not use that number, 300,000, all but 300,000, so 300,000 short, 500,000 max. We need to authorize and increase the band size by 300,000, right?
Or 200.
Or 200.
That is certainly choice that the governing body come in.
I'm saying we're not restricted. Correct.
No, you can do it, you just have to.
So our debt, our debt ratios would allow that.
The one thing though I want to raise though, this is a really important point. Throughout every single conversation, I'm specifically with Brian, but I'm talking to everybody. Out of every single conversation, right? If after site stabilization is 400,000, right? You build an $800,000 park, this is a match. Right, the funds available, at least the discussions that have taken place is we want to take on additional debt. Let's use what we have, let's stay within the budget, and if Rich only has $800,000 for the concept plan, so be it. If it's 600,000, so be it, right? And that's been part of the conversation. Obviously, if he has $10 left, okay, we gotta have a conversation about that, but I just want to make sure everybody up here in the dais.
I agree.
Yeah,
I fundamentally. I want to make sure that this gets support, so I agree with you, I don't think you should take on new debt. I understand it's for the option, it's which, but, I think we need to be prudent,
100%.
and we know that we can submit future applications.
Exactly.
And make additional improvements.
Correct.
When we have time to consider what those may or may not be. So,
Cool.
So water slides Avenue.
oh, wow.
And the slash part.
And the slash part, and now Virginia Park.
So
Yeah,
we don't have a public hearing. But this.
Yeah, that's the next GB meeting, right?
Is someone generic, again, provide a scope of work in order to submit to the.
It's like what we did for the part of the playground.
Just
Yes.
like we did at playground.
And-
I'll go out, shoreline protection. Part of plan having you on, there'll be a linear foot price, we'll have a place to folder in the estimate for that. And.
And I know you have to tag in a back and forth, but I think it'd be great if, Rich Chris, whoever, Nick, whoever, Chris deems appropriate, joins the next, 21 advisory committee.
Sure.
Advance of this, just so they can participate directly.
Yeah, if Chris is on board with it, 100% think it's a great idea. And just to double that, yeah,
July.
yeah.
See.
And Kristen, just to hit what you said, right, like, not only what we did with Jake's Playground, but facilities, it goes concept, design, construction documents, right? And as you go, you funnel in. And another data point is once the concept plan is there and it's submitted, then we're gonna go back to the committees and boards, and you guys will have, an additional review period, right? So we started with guardrails, then you have a concept plan, then from that, we get to a design, final review, and then ultimately we tell Rich, good to go with CD, rock and roll. No. But I also don't want to, though, discount all the feedback that we've gotten to date, right? Like, all the open houses, the committees and commissions are going into the concept plan, doesn't mean we're wedded to it, and we want residents to respond to the concept plan, but the concept plan is a byproduct of resident direct feedback, right? So,
Just I have one sort of chat, which I know you and I are on the same page about this technical reality. That will also lay over that.
yeah,
It'll come from our environmental assessment.
traffic and parking, the environmental engineers need to put.
Yeah,
And they take all this.
There'll be another circle in the Venn diagram that we have to take into account. And I don't want to overcount traffic and parking analysis, which is a big one.
So we're gonna get layers and layers of information. It's gonna help shape. Help give it shape and form after, because that's basically need to get the money in order to hire the professionals and that's.
And just to add, the next one will occur in will be 6:30 here, 18, Wednesday, so that's from 4 to hearing on the 23rd, so Rich and I will certainly come to that meeting
And we can start getting quotes. I'm not saying we're gonna bring them to here for approval yet until we know where the money is, but we could start getting quotes for the professionals for traffic and parking and the environmental engineer and start giving them an idea, right? Now that the estoppel's ended today.
Well, sure that we're not going to chip away. I know anything that we spend pursuant to the award may not count towards our match, and I don't know.
Yeah, I would, Tricia was before, I would kindly advise not everybody to find out what our match requirements going to be.
Totally agree.
But I.
Just to rewind the tape, right? Just to rewind the tape, I said, let's not bring it here for approval, but let's start to get an idea of how much it's gonna cost. Yeah, just to,
Everyone good with this?
Yes.
yeah, Red, draw some mark, man.
Oh, won't go anywhere. Can you please give us just a very high level?
Everything, I have a spreadsheet, so for engineering, they're all on projects.
Could you verbally or share it with us, or,
Do you-
I'm getting the wrong questions all the time, so I just wanna kind of snapshot of where we're at.
We'll submit to Chris tomorrow to the governing body, is that?
Is there any project, recently that you're, just popular parks?
I can give you a brief overview now.
That'd be great, is that all right? Is that all right, because it's not really on the agenda?
First one.
You put your agenda if you want to add
Is
it.
that all right?
I'm good.
First, Maple Avenue, final payment last week. Maple Avenue was third to Henderson. We final payment last Monday,
You what?
came out. real-
Maple Avenue.
You
The
did.
only thing I
Paper.
got is striking and crossing. So that project's complete. The other project that's probably underway, which we mentioned earlier, was the pocket parks. That is the all county space funded project. That's the bulkheading, park improvements at the end of Grange. For the most part, the bulkhead is in for the L shape. Actually, it's all been, they drilled the sheets in, we're gonna continue to, they've been working pretty much every day down there, or every week. Once they finish up that site, we're gonna move over to the program.
When is that gonna be done?
Sorry.
Okay.
It's all part of the same project.
What's the next step of the integration, bulkhead or anything? What's the next?
Bulkhead is ready, but still, they got some stormwater drainage pipe put in. They've got a backfill behind the bulkhead and stabilize and all that, and that's when you'll start seeing. The little area where they put a couple benches and
That-
create the walkway down.
Are they still doing the cement platform?
Are they what?
Wasn't there a cement platform at one point? Is that still happening?
To the bulkhead.
Say cement?
She said, no, but she
Well,
means
Oh,
the platform.
it's bricks. It's in line with like what we have out all over the road and our.
But it's attached to the bulkhead.
It's behind. it.
Fine, okay.
Part of that project. The next project we have is we did improvements to Fairhaven Road phase 1 and 2. It's about a $900,000 project. We awarded the bid to Discover Construction. They're the same contractor that did our micro projects, and we're familiar with their work. The two phases of those projects are NJDOT, they're locally. They had some last minute changes they wanted me to make to drawings. They're going to sign off on everything based on the conversation I had with them about 2 weeks ago. And given the fact that school is a couple weeks away from getting out, it made sense just to hold off and then get the project started. The contractor actually reached out to me today. So that's gonna take the bulk of our summer. You know, of my time, getting that whole project.
Can you,
That's Fairhaven Road from River Road all the way to Ridge Road.
can you remind us, because this is the question I get the most, where are the sidewalks going from to?
All the sidewalks on the west side are getting removed and replaced, brand new. So from hardware store all the way to the natural area. We had the sidewalks installed as part of that subdivision of the new houses to continue that pedestrian circulation. New sidewalks are just a continuation ones, because as you know, we installed sidewalks from Willow Street to the pond. Now we're going from the pond to Buttonwood on the east side,
And any of those side streets.
which is all been approved by engineer.
Any of those side streets getting, sidewalks too. Like,
Side streets are getting ADA upgrades, ramps, curb cuts. We're cleaning up radiuses and realigning, some of them are a little offset, and we're adding crosswalks as dictated on the blocks. And then we're also putting in the always stops that were recently approved. Governing body just a few weeks ago.
so that'll be this summer.
That is, once again, a $900,000 project this summer. You're gonna see a lot of activity out there.
You would have got crushed with the rain if you started it, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but let's,
Another project. We just had the survey on the redesign is improvements to Florida. That's from Cedar to Hamilton. I had a meeting with Acme last week, the project managers over there, kind of talked to them about some of the partnership that needs to take place as part of that project. And once again, that would be similar scope, remove existing sidewalk, aprons, ADA, and that will tie in all improvements we've done on Cedar, as you know, with Smith, and that'll take it all the way to Gates. You finish.
That's this summer also?
That's gonna be designed this summer and bid late summer, hopefully maybe I can squeeze it in the fall.
Okay.
We just finished this project, we closed out the grant with bicentennial fall. We did the roof project, that's another capital improvement project, which I worked with the roof consultant. I prepared the front end of the specs, signed all as a PE, put it out for bid, and I'll be handling the construction administration on that.
This is City Hall or by,
We're all, yeah, we're all.
And my question selfishly, not selfish, but for the library, I'm trying to visualize all the changes and how that might be done in conjunction with. Right, so we talked about the ceiling and lighting, potentially new floors. Is that gonna be a part of this project or?
So the one thing, that obviously had been discussed would be, the new drop ceiling and new lighting, most of the project was done, obviously, because of providing approval. As far as, again, the new floors, and if you paint in there, one of the issues that we had discussed was in order to do that, you have to pack up the library. So you have to pack, so instead of packing the library twice, again, once the library decides, what their plan is going to be, or where they're going, how they're going to design it, if they're packing it at once. That would be the time ahead of that, and had that proposal brought for governing body, to see if governing body would want to fund that renovation, and before and pay for that.
Okay, so we don't have to have funds set aside for that now.
Not for that, no, because we don't know exactly when the library is going to, and again, box up the library twice would make sense. The only thing that would be, once the roof is done, would become before, the governing body would be able to fund like their new ceiling tiles and.
Okay, I thought that was the roof. Okay. Misunderstood.
And then a few other projects, the River Road light poles. So we had a contract with an electrician. We're 95% complete. We've had some supply chain issues. We also had, one of the light poles showed up damaged, and then we got a couple taken down, so it's started the project. They're due out any day now to replace some timers, make sure everything is working in proper order. So that's the River Road light pole. So we are substantially complete with that. That was, we did an LED conversion and retrofit for everything. After one of our meetings, I went through at night and I identified any poles that I felt the color was off, and they've since replaced all those poles.
I think you're doing that.
Obviously, we did and awarded the AMA parking lot, the church next door.
Yep.
Although I was a design engineer, I'm still on the sidelines, with all.
He's not on this, he's in the thick of it, making sure it's done correctly.
We get the system with that, and then obviously we got James Lawson, we received funding for, so that will then
James
actually keep with design as well, not in-house.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of work. to do
That's the
there.
26 project, you said?
Yeah, I think based on the system.
Yeah,
like it. Yeah. But we've got a few things to get through, and, I'm also on a modified work week because I had a baby this past year, so I'm working a condensed schedule, so we're doing as much as we can, during the work year. And then I think that's it. I think for Fairhaven, that's a lot more, and obviously we've got the facilities that closed out.
Hey, Rich,
I do have a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet which is discussion and/or planning. Those are the different types of projects that we're looking at. Then projects that are in design phase, then active projects, which are currently in construction. Then special projects, which is more facilities and things of that nature. And then all the other projects like we mentioned, we worked last summer with all the utility companies, getting all the roads paved, coordinating all that.
we created a spreadsheet, remember, 3 years ago, we created the template, so it's the same template,
And then
yeah.
the other stuff we have is all the work, all the things, planning and zoning over stuff, and all the projects that come with that. With the inspection and various work that's involved, and then some of the administrative stuff, which we talked about, is like all of our stormwater requirements, that we have to do, we can see through that matrix, so.
Thank you.
Rich,
I can put this, this.
just switching gear, if you're done with that, I just want to switch gears slightly. On the MCOS, does the grant cover hard costs and soft costs?
On which one?
MCOS? Or it has a new title now?
Unless you get a funded portion from the grant, it's not covered songs.
So that would be design work.
Correct.
That'd be professionals and everything.
The 500,000 they provide.
So the match is specifically hard costs only.
Right.
So the soft costs, we would have to do irrespective of how much money we get. Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. All right, public comment on agenda items only, please observe 3-minute time limit. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address to the record. Is anyone with a public comment on agenda items only? Awesome. No, thank you. Approval of minutes, May 27, 2025, regular and executive session, motion approved.
Motion. Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Lisa,
Yes.
Tony,
Yeah.
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Thank you. Old business, hearing the ordinance 2025-10, bond ordinance improvements to Foreman Street, that motion open.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Does anyone else up here have anything on this? Anyone in the public have anything on this? Allison, anyone online?
No.
Do I have a motion to close?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tony,
Yeah.
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a facilities update from Councilman Borough.
Thanks, Mayor. So got to go over just some few updates and need some approval from the governing body tonight just to wrap up our facilities projects, which are quickly coming to a close. I'll start with DPW, give some general updates. So the fence will start to be installed tomorrow, which is fantastic. We'll be finishing the landscaping, which just consists of seeding. As Rich said, the offset improvements are complete. We'll be getting rid of the containers. I think there's 3 left. I know Nick has taken point on that. And then we'll potentially pave, but we're gonna bring that back to the governing body at a future date, pave the parking lot. So all in all, if all goes according to plan, within the next 2-3 weeks, we can officially close out DPW.
Why is it coming back to the governing body for the paving?
Because that wasn't included as part of the original. But given how much has been disturbed, it might make sense to do. We're working with Chris, and whether it's co-op or we have to talk through that. I'm gonna go to Bicentennial Hall real quick before I finish with the PD and Community Center. So if you recall, we had an updated maintainability report done for Bicentennial Hall. It was all the different aspects of the building that need to be taken into consideration, given that its historical significance, et cetera. With the ADA bathroom now complete, what we've been waiting with, now that that's over, what's on the agenda for tonight is to move towards all of the work required to get to the building to a level of maintainability in one single project. Painting, the chimney, putting the generator in, the roof, the gutters, the molding around the stained glass. We've sometimes referred to it as the punch list. Not going to go into the details just for brevity of why it's taken so long, but we're finally at the point. We went through the 2-quote process, and working with Nancy and Chris. There's a resolution there tonight, so super excited for this to kind of put it all together, and then get Bicentennial Hall in a great state of maintainability going forward, especially ahead of the 250th next year. Okay, so now to PD and Community Center. Community Center, we're going through the final inspections and punch list. Furniture install, AV install, right? 2.5 years ago, we did all the programming for Community Center, what it does, what we want to put into it. DJ's working through on operationalizing the programming with what we're going to host in there. But that's really coming along. If you get a chance or want to go over there, Chief can walk you through the site. PD is fairly complete. It's beautiful inside. Again, feel free to walk through. So where we've turned our attention to is the site work. As we were doing the site work, we actually came across the old remnants of the building that burnt down in 26. We saved what we could as far as remnants of it. We passed some to this chapel. We're going to pass some to the historic and some other groups. And as we look to finish the site work, there's been a few unknowns that have been popped up. So I have 5 that I want to go over, and I'm going to specifically request approval for these so that we can maintain our momentum, given that with our conversations with the contractor, Chris, right, the contractor's looking to finish up, and we can go into more detail if needed. So what are those? So, 31 Fisk, which is the building next to the police department. That fence is on the PD's property. And so that fence needs to be moved 12 inches further away from the PD. There are 3 trees that are obstructing it. They've always been planned to come down, but they weren't on the drawing for whatever reason. So those 3 trees have to come out. And what I'll articulate on this tree conversation, we had a CTE report done back in 23, and we had Sherry come back out in May just to do a double check, especially with some lessons learned from the DPW. And we filled out the tree applications as well, given that the ordinance has changed. So, work with Christina on that, given that it happened mid-project, but just so everybody knows, we've double and triple checked all the work. On the tree front as well. So, if you remember the tennis court fence, there were specifically 2 properties that abutted the tennis court fence. I think it was 66 and 74 Maple. Don't quote me the exact numbers, but there's 2 houses there. That fence is 5 feet on the property, so it has to be moved 5 feet back. Now, we're not moving the fence, we're getting rid of it, and the residents will have the fence there. But there are 5 dead trees that exist within there that have to come out. That are on our property, yes, all of this is on our property. No, there's other trees in there. So what we instructed Sherry was, hey, you know, as you're looking at that, we don't want to lose that buffer. And then we've also, I'll talk about the landscaping plan, because we're doing some changes to that, but we're making sure that the buffer maintains, especially abutting for those 2 houses. So the tree removal comes out to $7,287.50. That's one of 5, excuse me. What's up? No, that's the work to have the contractor. Yeah. And again, all these numbers have been vetted and validated by the Rick Adelson and TGP, making sure it's aligned with unit costs and all that. Okay, the bike path. So as you recall, there's a bike path that goes from the PD sidewalk and comes behind Community Center North. That bike path is not ADA accessible. So we have to make it ADA accessible. It's also the right thing. That's $6,499.90. There are sidewalk tie-ins. So if you recall, for the PD Community Center, we did all of the off-site improvements on on Fish Street, right? We expanded the road, we added sidewalks. What wasn't taken into account was the tie-ins into the rectory. And there's two other concrete walkways. So the sidewalk tie-ins have to happen. 6,336. Okay, final 2 pieces. If you've been to the site, there's 2 garages, right? So if I'm facing the new PD, there's 2 garages. I think the Sally Port's on the left, no, Sally Port's on the right, and the OEM garage is on the left. The design had these humps. There's these 2 humps, and they were originally put there for a myriad of different reasons, from separating the garages to over-engineering from a stormwater perspective. You trip on them. We've tripped on them as we've walked in. So we want to remove the humps and make it completely level with the rest of the sidewalk that exists there. It's 3,205. The last one is the ADA ramp to the police department. So unfortunately, JCP&L had to put their electric pole on the PD site. Originally, it was supposed to be designed across the street. What that then had occur was a ripple effect of concrete going down that is now leaving the entire parking lot exposed, as well as providing a path to nowhere. And I'll let Chief speak to it because his team is using it every day.
Picture or drawings or something we can look at while you're taking us through it?
I did not prepare just because we're here. Like I couldn't put it up on a presentation. I could bring that up on my computer and show you.
In front? That's all, I just wanna make sure I understand.
It's not in front, it's,
They put the pole, these been out the mountain, or they put the pole right, basically the sidewalk moves out to the other sidewalk, right? The sidewalk comes down and the pole is through the right center, so what we have to do is, originally it was designed to go, the sidewalk to go off into the, driveway. Then that's what you need to put it back there on the other side, they put it on the other side temporarily so we could get the COD in the building, but it does not look right. I mean, you
Yeah.
have this little pack that goes out. So
functionality.
functionally, what happens, if you walk, if somebody's walking, goes to the back, they can actually walk there, they're not gonna go around the pole, go around, so I myself cut through that little thing, that landscape will get destroyed, so we have to redesign that sidewalk. So it goes through half into the other sidewalk, right now, unfortunately, that pole is there, and it's right there, you can't move it, it is what it is, and, we even talked about, we would move the sidewalk, we have to wire it. So they really end there, but
It doesn't work.
What we'd be paying JCP&N?
No, this would be paying the contractor to rip out that piece of sidewalk and move it to the other side adjacent to the parking lot.
Side, the
Yeah.
pole would stay.
Oh, pole has to stay. The pole across the street, it's in front of Steve's house. It apparently had already too much, I don't know what you call it, stuff, I'll call it stuff, whatever, yeah. Yeah. So-
We thought they could walk that pole, they could now do it, that, they put the pole, and it's drop. Oh, it fell on them.
We've had some curveballs thrown our way.
We're sure about that part of they can't put on the pole, we checked with our new contact.
We did check.
Okay.
So given, so we actually wound up. There was plenty of work to be done, but from a site perspective, we actually kind of paused a little bit. We had Avakian's group go out there and do as is built. We had corners set because we needed to tie in the rest of the site work with all of the sidewalks and what has happened, because there's been some significant site considerations that come up, whether it's grading, whether it's the unforeseen of the building remnants. There was an old water cistern, if I'm using the correct word. Thank you. It's just not the right word. It's like in Italy, isn't that, with the Sistine Chapel? Yeah. So anyway, so with that, right, the governing body provided authorization for Josh to authorize 5,000 and below. Given that we're at this final stage, we're under some unique pressures, I'll call it, from the contractor to not hold them up and get done. So what I wanted to see if the governing body was comfortable with was a not to exceed for these 5 items. I gave you the line items as of now. But then this way, when we have our facilities meeting tomorrow morning, the contractor, we can give them clear guidance on how we're proceeding and whatnot. Chris, do you want to explain the unique pressures that we're under?
Yeah, the contract, so I had a call from the architect the other day, basically saying, that, they're concerned that the wall has been on site for too long, and they're pushing it out, plus the other issue too, is longer haul stays out, longer we're also paying our architect as well, on monthly fees to administrative projects as well, so the longer it goes on, the more costly it is, so it's at the borough's best interest to get this job finished, get it closed out, so we can move on and stop incurring any work.
So
There's an mantra in constructive, preserve momentum.
yeah, and 95%. They have 2 weeks of site work left. 8,012. So an all in with the 10% on top of each number, it's 34,475.93. So the sidewalk tie-ins are 63.36, the 88 bike path 65, tree removal 72.87, 88 ramp front 80.12, and then the 2 humps 32.05. There's some rounding in there. When you add 10%, Chris will say just put up to 35,000 and NTE, not 35. And that covers the 5 CORs. The other data point that I'll give you just to help is we have some great experience with the landscaping installation plan at DPW, right? It's beautiful. There's quite a bit of material though. And so what we're trying to balance, especially given some of the additional trees coming out, is there different landscaping that can go in that doesn't materially impact our design, right? The buffers that we're trying to achieve, reduce the cost somewhat, but also plug the holes, right, with where the trees were missed. And the short answer is yes. So Sherry Sparrow and Jan with Edgewater Designs are working together. We're following the same process that we did previously to see if there's anything we can do, knowing what happened. So hopefully I can bring a reduction COR your way. In a couple of weeks.
I have two questions based on the line items. The one, the bike path being not handicap accessible.
Yeah,
Is that something where it's already set up and we need to now change it, or they just haven't done the work?
they haven't done the work.
The second one I have a question on is the humps.
Yes.
So I guess I don't understand. It was designed this way by the architect, correct?
Yes.
So the architect designed something that sounds like to me like it's dysfunctional. But why, we paid this guy a lot of money. Why is he not paying for this change? Why are we, all the other ones I understand. Why, if he designed it that way, there's people tripping on a walkway based on the design. That sounds to me like a dysfunctional design.
So I would agree with you on that, and Drew and I did have some conversations back and forth on it. And where we're at this point is we have the architect pointing fingers at the contractor, the contractor pointing fingers at the architect. So we're at an issue where either we're at the contractor, you go to the contractor, down there, probably, everybody goes to pay the damages, or we go every the architect. And have them put it as their own insurance if they're willing to do so, but they're gonna have to prove that they signed off that it's compliance. So they're both pointing their fingers at each other's faults. The question would be, is paying the $8,000, and again.
3,200, 3,200.
So is paying, the government has to make a decision, is paying 3,200 easier than, going to litigate this on whose fault it is in the end. And I would say, looking at it, I think probably 3,200 probably cheaper, have it done right, or the third option is to leave it as it is, but again, we're still ready to issue a known problem that we have in the effect ADA, so that's looking at it from.
How much do we pay every month for that firm? Moving forward?
But 3750.
The NTE 3750.
And I'm just pointing out to the governing body that firm is on the consent agenda again, so. I don't wanna stop the project for
Yeah.
$200 based on what I just heard, but.
There's been,
Something missing here.
And Drew and I did talk about this, but.
and we also we also shaved off $23,000. There was another 23 that Chris and I worked together to just say that's not happening. You guys need to figure that out. So we did push it back. This is, yeah, those plus this 34 would have been another 26.
Do you foresee the site work being done by the end of this month? So that we're not paying into July, or we would continue paying into July for like some sort of post?
My guess is that even if the site work's done, there's gonna be a closeout period where they do like a whole administrative closeout. Where like you look at the warranties, you look at a whole bunch of documentation.
That's done by the end of July?
Yes.
It just because I could post out, going to add in that, that's one of the concerns I had as well, that we want another month and a half to lag off the close out after everybody mobilize my site. I had directed the contractor last week to start putting all the closeout documents together, down the plans, and we had that done in tandem by the architect while we're gonna issue this project down, so we're not extending more time to that, and again, it costs the bird by us, so
And-
they are in the process.
And just to ground us, right, real quick, because I don't want us to lose sight of some key data points, right? Our original owner's rep. I just want everybody to hear this. Our original owner's rep passed away, right? Then we got a second one. and then we let that second one go, right? Hall's also had some of their own unfortunate experiences, so there's been a tremendous amount of handoff on a project of this magnitude, which is an anomaly. And unfortunately, there have been cascading effects that have occurred, right? So I don't want to say it's just Eli or just Hall, right? There's been a lot of decision made and a lot of hands. And as Chris and I have doubled down as of February, right? We've spent a tremendous amount of time to write it and also shut the faucet off and everything, so.
And one of those cascading effects, truthfully, and I mean this, is the amount of work that has landed, on your shoulders, and you have done
Thanks, man.
an incredible job. I mean, it's amazing, and even sitting there, we're getting at $3,200. We're saving that money from an owner's rep standpoint, we're acting in this capacity as a council person, not getting paid for it. So, huge ups to you.
Thanks, man.
Awesome job.
And if I may, shout out to Nancy, phenomenal, Allison hustling, Nick hustling, Rich hustling, Chief hustling, DJ hustling, like, oh yeah, Chris goes without saying, like but my point is that, like, we have a 7:30 meeting tomorrow. And everybody's gonna be there, right? Followed by 8 o'clock. When we have to jump on Friday to go look at the fence and the gate, who shows up? All of them, right? Because they have such pride in their work. Again, every single person here it's a phenomenal team, and Chris knows that. So hats off to Chris, all of you. Thank you so much for all the help. Yes. So let's say the site work gets done by the end of the month, close out, beginning of August, I would say. Yeah, and if you can go in, it's phenomenal. I mean, the two different TVs, the assistive listening system, the awning, all the glass in the back that opens up. We got the picnic tables at DPW that are going there. I mean, it's the water station. It's a great idea. I don't want to do that because I would feel much comfortable if I had something granular. So, all right. So do I make a motion to not to exceed 35,000 across the 5?
Well, why don't I?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Make a motion to authorize a not to exceed number 35,000 to address the 5 outstanding or identified areas for action.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Second,
All in favor, Allison, or you want a roll call?
Let's do roll call.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul,
Yes.
Kinsella,
Yes.
Tony,
Yeah.
yes.
Rivera.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you. And my last point, I don't know if it's possible for police, but I think we should definitely do it for community. If we can do it for both, it might be nice when all said and done to have like just an open house one night for an hour or see if they pay for it, Yeah.
That's the perfect time.
I don't know that. Yeah, that'd be good. All right, we are at the consent agenda. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, 2001 to 2025-11, amend chapter 739-1, accessible parking spaces, Cedar Avenue. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion,
Second,
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Kinsella.
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
yes.
Rivera.
affirmative.
Thank you. Consent agenda 2025-171 through 2025-180. Before I ask for a motion, does anyone want to separate anything on here? Anyone have any comments on anything on here?
I have a comment. On 2025-178. Extending his contract. Now, I did speak with Drew
Yeah.
about this. But I'm wondering, considering the $3,200 expense we just went for the humps in the sidewalk, if perhaps there's something they could give back to us and reduce their costs for July. I don't know if that's negotiable. I don't know if that's possible. But it would seem to me that we paid them a lot of money. We've gone through a lot of
Change.
change. I understand that. But if it was your own home, you might be looking to reduce the cost in some way. So it's just an observation.
Mm-hmm. And principal, I share your putting in, I don't know how to do it. Maybe we accelerate the close ends, so it's not another monthly fee.
Well, it could be something that maybe Chris has a conversation with them about.
Yeah, I just said that, it's just, that's.
What's the,
Figure it out again.
So
what's the date? When is it in? What's the date that it's ending? Hang on, Mayor, if you don't mind, just an extra second.
It's a good point.
It's,
Very extended.
That's, that's,
it says not to exceed 37.50 per month until August 31st.
So we're
That's a
extending
long-
to September then?
want to do till end of,
So speaking just with Eli, he had anticipated that he would most likely be done with this by August first. The only reason we extended the extra month, and again, if everybody wants to change it to make it August first, that's fine, just to, prevent us from having to come back and making another motion if we.
Well, first of all, I'd rather come back and make another motion.
I don't mind going to the end of July, and then if we run, then give us some leverage to go back and try to negotiate. So maybe we update it to July is 30th, not July 30th.
Yeah, I agree.
Why not do July 30th and then give Nick and Chris and I some ammo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
With that, I have one plan. We're already, we've already one through priorities. That's why we're coming to you next. So we've already not handled this properly as far as getting approval now for stuff we owe him. So it's sort of what Chris and I discussed going through August 31st, so that we don't run into that problem. Because it could be an auditor's.
Understood. Okay, so we can still go back though. I mean, we're meeting with them tomorrow. I don't want to have that, I don't want to exacerbate that. I think that's super important. I'm looking at Brian. So from an auditing perspective, right, like always be above like 100%. So if we leave it as is, but then the mandate to Chris and I is to bring up the humps. And I'll leave it at that.
Can we
something
pull
needs
this
to
and
be
do it
done to-
23rd?
To get some of that money back, even if it's only half. I mean,
Understood.
but my experience with contractors is if you tell them they have until the August 31st, they'll go to August 31st.
Does that put you an issue for May to July 30th?
This is a decision for you guys to make. I shared my concern, so that's your decision.
Is there any benefit to just pulling this and doing it on the 23rd after you've had the conversation?
No, we have to,
My instinct is very first.
of what?
Go August.
Do 31 August just to not avoid any financial, okay.
And push them to completion.
Let us take it away. I'm gonna follow your lead, right, as financially concerned, right? And then Chris and I are a pretty good team. I think we'll be okay.
I said the reluctance to renew a new agreement with this group, but I hope they know that, we expect them to be there very fast.
Dave,
Be as efficient as possible.
Eli and Laura have been huge assets, especially when Scott passed and with Greg turnover. I can personally attest that they've had Fairhaven's best interest from day one, and I'll let Chris opine, I'll let Allison, I mean, everybody's dealt with them and
Everyone's been. Laura will not allow, since Laura took over finalizing payments, she's on the contractor for every little thing to make sure that the percentages are right. And she has saved us money along the way.
That's good.
Yeah. they've been on site, yeah, they've been awesome.
Have a motion to approve?
Motion,
Sorry.
73 to 77, I have a question. So there are 5 applications. You have farming by 2 that are club, that there was 1 that is subdivision, and then 2 that are resale and assumption. That's a total of 5. At least we're following up in the state of New Jersey in terms of what our maximum allowed number is in each category. Do we know that we're max?
The calculation,
It's a
Allison.
population.
But
Yeah.
so for, but category, these categories.
These are grandfathered in. You have to have a population of like 7,500 goes by 7,500 each. Times the we're at our max. Allowed.
Got it.
So,
Unless they change the rule, that's in the future, which is a.
especially since we're doing.
Okay, guys, so, Borough Council President Koch has asked me to separate,
Just 178.
2025, 178, so we're voting initially on 2025-171 through 177, and then 179 through 180, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilman Paul. Yes. Stephen Stein.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Robert Rivera.
Affirmative.
Do you want discussion, or you just want,
Just about before.
does someone have a motion to approve 2025-178?
I'll make a motion.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilman Paul.
Yes.
Stephen Stein.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Scott.
Yeah.
Robert Rivera.
Affirmative.
Nelson.
All right, department reports, May 2025, Councilman Barbera, lost his opportunity last month, and wasn't here to make a motion with a thank you.
Motion with the thank you.
No, yeah, was there, yeah.
Was the thank you last, did it work last month?
Somehow we gave a thank you last month.
All right, you can take it.
Start a second, but then.
I'll second with, you're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Negative.
All right, good as Borough. Identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record, and please observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Is there anyone with a good as a Borough? No. Allison,
I would like,
No.
all right.
I have one, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that, thank you to the green team and the Knollwood Green Team. They did the Eco Rally for the Two Rivers Eco Fest this weekend. And, they had a lot of great feedback. And one of the things that they were talking about is how to recycle harder to recyclable items. And just so everyone knows, the Knollwood Green Team is currently collecting and has all year been collecting markers and also, used cosmetic cases, or so any like bottles or anything. So if anyone has that, they have been doing that all year. But one thing that came up that was interesting is recycling tennis balls. And what a really crazy statistic is 14,000 tennis balls like go into the trash every year. So no, that wasn't right. Hold on. Let me tell you the exact number. Yeah, 14,000 tennis balls are trashed hourly in the US, hourly. Hourly, which is 7 billion, this says since like 1875. And they said the number of tennis balls trashed every hour is as tall as the Empire State Building. So one of the Rumson Fairhaven Green Team wants to present to the borough at some point the idea of recycling the tennis balls and having like a recycle depot or something, either at the fields or at City Hall or at Borough Hall. So I just wanted to throw that out there that will be coming to us, but I think it's a really interesting idea. When I saw that number, it was like shocking, so.
Just, you know, it was voted on in the past.
Okay.
Down, it was a student application to put them at the field, but we can have a discussion offline on why that was, and maybe there's another alternate way that we can achieve.
Well, I'd love to maybe not have it on, maybe we could bring it to the council at some point to talk about it. Cause I would love to,
No, I believe it was, and it was turned down
I
at
don't
the
think it was
time.
ever brought to the council. Was it?
I think so.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we can't achieve it.
Okay.
It was a different time and, you
Okay.
know, different ideas, so,
Okay.
you know, I'm sure there's an opportunity to make it happen.
Okay.
You know.
In the meantime, saving, I have tons of tennis balls, that is just, we put them aside.
I guess, maybe. Yeah, I'll have to find out from, but I know that they would like to do it, and so maybe they're already, I'll check, yeah, for sure.
Sure.
I would just like to remind everybody that Fairhaven Day is coming up. It is Saturday, June 21st. We are really short of volunteers, and the only way that this day can be successful is if we have volunteers to help us. So the easiest way to volunteer, Betty Ann has started publishing today, the link to the Sign Up Genius, which will list all of your opportunities, and the times that those opportunities are available. And if you could help us out by signing up for an hour or two, it would make a big difference. So thank you.
Like for Stefan, Becky, should we send her to Stefan?
Should we?
Yeah, the link for Stefan for all eighth graders.
Oh, yes, I
a good idea.
believe, I think Susan already did, but we can do it again. And I've had a few parents come up to me and ask if their kids could volunteer, so going through there, and really an hour or two is going to make a huge difference.
And on volunteering, thank you to everyone who showed up at the Third Street Trail cleanup this weekend. The Third Street Trail cleanup, there's another one this weekend, and it really looks so amazing in there. It's really unbelievable.
The headline of that was so clever.
Well, I
Like,
really-
love, what was it? Love to see us.
Oh,
Yeah, TLC on the, yeah, I thought it was super clever. You know what I mean?
So you know, includes the date with the water rescue vehicle and how it is 1993.
How much?
3,900.
Okay,
that-
the homes.
pay for the home.
And with that, we will adjourn at 9:09 p.m.
Oh, we have someone on their hand up. Someone has their hand up on the,
Oh,
online.
I'm sorry.
Peter, you may,
Hi, it's Susan Sorensen, even though it says my husband's name, I don't know why. There was a question regarding Fairhaven Day that I couldn't hear, so I figured I might as well answer it. What was the question regarding volunteers?
No,
Had it been sent to the eighth graders?
No, it's not been sent out to the eighth graders. That's a great idea. I will shoot
was
it out to Sean, or maybe Betsy can, but if they just want to go to fairhavenday.com, they can go there. We need all the volunteers we can get, especially with the setup. And it's greatly
junior
appreciated.
NHS, right?
Betsy did
The
a nice
junior
job.
NHS, what now? Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Susan.
thanks, Susan.
All right, thank you, guys.
Adjournment at 9:10.
Motion,
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Anyone opposed? Right, so,
So.
What?